Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of In the Dark. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up right where the previous episode left off with Murphy's conversation with Josh. It's like, okay, this dude named Josiah, he's the one that has all the drugs and everything. He has Jess. If you save Jess, I will turn myself in. And they're willing to kind of cooperate in this, but Josh wants more. Gene, this is all he needs, but Josh wants more. He's like, I know you're not the only one involved with Nia Bailey's death, so I need all of you. I need Felix, I need Max, and I'm going to need Jess too. So from Murphy, it's like, no, let me be the only one. And obviously she brings it up to Felix. It's like, right, he wants all of us. So Felix being like, I don't want to go to jail, but if it means saving Jess's life, then sure, I'm going to do it. And so Josh is so excited about it, which is kind of for one, it's like, you can't help but feel like it is personal. It is like professionally, like, hey, like you're a murderer, so I needed to take you down. Once again, sadly, Jess is the one that pulled the trigger, but Murphy could still go down for like obviously helping clean up the crime scene and everything, helping to dispose of the body. So she's still an accomplice in it all, but she's not the one that actually pulled the trigger. But still. So it's like it's a personal vendetta because he got lied to by Murphy. So it's that, but also he is kind of a true justice seeker. I'm just curious, like, would he really go as hard as he does right now if it wasn't for the fact is that he has a personal vendetta in this, that being Murphy? Like, I think the fact is he's he's so pissed at Murphy. He's like, no, I'm not going to let anyone else slide on this. Not only because I know that they're guilty with this whole Nia thing, but also just because I don't want you to have some solace thinking that you got away with it on some regard of you taking the fall and no one else. Like, no, I'm not going to be all about that. So, but obviously Gene immediately told Josh, don't bring anything up to the chief. And what does he do? Well, at the very least, don't bring up Murphy's name. What's the thing he do? Like 30 seconds into it, Murphy, and just you could tell the chief's face immediately shuts down because he doesn't want anything to do with Murphy because Murphy can undermine him because he is aware that, like, obviously she knows that he's the one that protected Dean and everything despite knowing what Dean did. So that, so it is that slippery slope of like, hey, I am trying to do the right thing. We're trying to take these drug shipments off but it's also like, no, you're also at the same time covering your ass. So it's like, but it's also because Gene never told Josh, which I'm not surprised because I brought it up before that Gene wasn't going to tell Josh because he knew it would not sit well with Josh if he found out Murphy's going to get a deal cut. Because it's like, right, if I can, because that's what Gene wants. He wants to get to Murphy so he can not only settle all of this, but also take down the chief because the chief is like neck deep in, all of this as well. So he ends up bringing up later on the reason why he won't tell Josh even now is because he knows that Josh, and I think he's right. Maybe maybe given the information about what you're up to about like the chief and everything, maybe that changes his mind. But he's got kind of an insensitive thing to say under his circumstances, but he's kind of got blinders on when it comes to Murphy. Like he's just his focus is on her, and well, tunnel vision would have been the right word, but I mean, still think considering the whole situation, I guess you can almost make it argument that's still insensitive with his eyesight situation, but still, like he that's all he's focused on. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see. Like Gene got was told the idea of like, right, so your best option, because you have to kind of get creative around it, basically lead Murphy and them to Josiah's place, and then you'll be following them, and they'll lead you to not only Jess, but you could legally get all the like drugs as well. So things are kind of working out on that side of things, but the other side of things is, right, so we got all this settled and everything, but they still need to get Max involved, and they have to get in contact with him. And I love Murphy being like, also, Darnell, Trey, is there anything at the arcade that would take you guys down to? And they're like, no, we're good. And it's just like, good. Because we are going to go down, but I don't want any of you guys to get caught up in it either. But then you get your boy Trey thinking like, yeah, but are we really just going to let all those drugs go to like, like be locked up in the police evidence locker? And I'm like, why are you going against this? Because I'm like, I was like, please don't tell me you're going to try and like warn Josiah so you can be on his better side. But nah, his play is actually much bigger. It's like, no, like with Josiah locked up, it's like, I'll take over operations. Because for him, it's like, what other prospects does he necessarily have? I think that's his thought. Like, right, I know this game. I've been kind of lower on the totem pole, but with Josiah out of the way, I can swoop in, take over the full operation, make the mega bucks, and be the boss that I know I should be. So taking an opportunity of this power vacuum. I mean, considering like Josiah is literally just doing the same thing that Nia did. I mean, which also you have to think about it, like Nia grew to where she was, but remember Josiah brought up, I think last season, like that Nia used to work for him. So it's interesting that another person that worked for him is trying to screw him over. I mean, it's always lonely at the top, I guess. There's always someone trying to like waiting just for the opportunity to stab you in the back, regardless of all of that. But I'm like, no, Trey, don't betray the team, though. You're part of the squad. I was so happy to have you part of the squad and everything. So everyone's working, splitting down the different names and stuff like that to call Max. And ultimately, they talked to a dude named Dougie, who was like, oh, he does know Max, like with his reaction. So it's an 8-hour drive. Granted, they still have till like 9 p.m. because that's their like deadline. So they've got to like the next day at 9 p.m. So they drive down, find Dougie, and it's like, right, Max told me not to tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. Dougie, I love him. I would never do anything to her. Notice that Felix kind of looked at her when she said that, because Felix, like, had brought it up again, and, like, the whole, like, and she's like, can we please not talk about for him? It's like, it was kind of like, he's like, it's for him, at the initial point, I think it's the thing of, like, it was kind of enjoyable. Can you at least acknowledge that? Don't pretend, like, it's worse by you being like, oh, pretending like nothing happened, so that's worse. So they end up getting in contact with Max, and he does care about Jess. I'm curious if it was, I think if it was Felix, he'd do the same thing too. If it was anyone but Murphy, I think even if it was Murphy, he'd still break him, just fine, I'll do it. I don't want her death is on my conscience. Yeah, my issues with Murphy, but he does care about her to some extent. Like, he's only as pissed as he is. I mean, yes, he has reasons to be as pissed as he is, but I still think he's going a little above and beyond. But once again, it's that thing of like, nah, I'm Team Murphy all the way, so that's why I'm like, yeah, I recognize, like, the way she's handled things hasn't always been the best, and she's kind of dragged all of you into this. Once again, everyone's also added their smidge to this whole complicated situation. They've all added their own little spice to it as well, so they're in the mix, and so they're just as responsible in some regards, but most of it ends up falling on Murphy, which I get some of it, but I don't think all of it should fall on Murphy the way it does. But once again, I digress. But since it's Jess, and honestly, Max has always liked Jess. Jess has always liked Max. But it's also like, right, they had a bonding moment before, like, they buddied before, like, they went their separate ways. So I think just like, right, Jess is a good person. She doesn't deserve this. It's like, right, I'm not going to do it for you, Murphy, because you're not a good person. But Jess, she is fine. Even if it means going to jail, if it means saving her life, fine. So, and even Felix sitting there being like, oh, I feel so, like, feeling like a cockroach. Well, envious of a cockroach. It's like, it's free and everything. For him, it's just like, oh, you're going to do fine in prison, Murphy. I guess, I don't know whether that was was that simply because of her personality, or is it just because she's also very, very pretty? So it could be a combination of two of like, yeah, because of those factors, you'll do well in prison. But also, you also think, probably not, because Murphy's super sarcastic, and that's likely something to get her punched in the face. Well, technically she already did, but to be fair, that was also like not real. That was all in her head, and her like subconscious manifesting as Jess kicking her ass. But other than that, and then Murphy's like, well, we're going to go to jail, so I'll say this. You're good at sex. And Felix is like, wait, really? Like, he perked up, because it's like, right, Felix doesn't have a lot of confidence, so hearing that made him feel good. He's like, really? Yeah, that's dope, I feel great about it. So even being like, so was there anything in particular? She's like, yeah, we're not having this conversation. But once again, back to your boy Trey, like, I was like, no, he's setting it up to take over. I was like, don't do this, Trey. Don't betray the squad that you become a part of it. So they're on a train, and Felix is like, oh, Murphy, can we go? Because she was basically saying, like, oh, we could hook up again. If I was horny, I would, like, totally hook up with you again. And that perked him up even more, almost trying to get her away. Be like, oh, maybe we should go to the bar. She's like, no, I'm going to stay here. And it's like, okay. And Darnell's like, I'll go with you. It's like, okay, cool. And he immediately sees Felix, like, yo, I know you're into Murphy. He's like, what? No, I'm not. He's like, I mean, yeah, there's totally the fact is that we actually had sex, and Darnell was like, whoa. And it's like, yeah, we had sex, and she actually said I was pretty good, and if she was horny, like, we could do it again. And it just, like, hits him like, wow, I actually am into Murphy, because he, it never crosses his mind, because he's always seen Murphy a certain way, but now in that moment, I mean, to be fair, when you hook up with someone, there's an opportunity, even if it's supposed to be like a one-night stand. To be fair, it's a very extreme, weird circumstance of a one-night stand, because that between them never seemed like it was, you would have never thought that was a possibility. But because they're so opposites attract and everything. But then also you add on top of that, it's like their first time together was also a threesome. So like, I'm sure that adds layers to how special and awesome it was to a certain extent. So, you know, but then like, didn't you get your boy Trey and Murphy bonding, which I really like that too, because they also reiterated something I completely forgot about, that Murphy's like adopted. I was like, all right, it doesn't come, I don't, to my recollection, I don't think it comes up that often. It doesn't get mentioned. Like, I feel like the only time it was ever really talked about was in season 1. Maybe there were some times in season 2 that it came up, but I feel like it was only caught up in season 1 because that's when her parents are around the most. Like, her parents don't really pop up that much in season 2 at all. But it was mainly a season 1 thing. So that's why I'm like, I think that's the only time I really vividly remember that whole thing of like that. It was like, right, that's right. But that's the thing between her and Trey, because she's like, right, it explains like kind of like why you kind of got that like, oh, I'm so cool like attitude and stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, like unemotionally available. About all the girls enjoy it, and it was like, kind of unemotionally available. It's kind of, I mean, the argument could be like, that's kind of your that. Oh, and you two hook up. And it's so sad because Felix is bringing drinks back. He's like, oh, I was looking for you, but you weren't at our seats. And I see Pretzel here. And she's like, I'll be out in 5 minutes. And Trey's like, 5 minutes? And it's like, and she hears them giggling. He hears them giggling. I'm like, it's the most heartbreaking thing. Even him going back in defeat to Darnell. He's like, yeah, bright idea. And Darnell just kind of like pats him on the side. I'm like, oh, poor Felix. I mean, to be fair, I guess you can make the argument it's karma getting you back for the fact is that you kind of screwed a pooch last episode. But it's also like, Murphy would never look like having sex with Felix is cool. Like, yeah, I'll look at you as kind of honestly kind of like a dildo, like something I just like use and just kind of toss aside. She would never look at Felix that way because it's a weird thing to say, but Felix kind of falls in that nice guy category, but Max is kind of that bad boy. I mean, to be fair, she had a thing for Josh, and he was kind of like the good guy thing. Granted, it was like you were using him at first, but then you actually kind of caught feelings for him. I don't know. If Murphy and Felix legitimately get together, I'd be actually shocked. I don't see that happening. It'd be really awkward. It'd be really interesting. And I think they'd make such an awkward, interesting couple. Because, I mean, Felix has dealt with Murphy's personality for long enough. Like, obviously, he's known her longer than Max has. So, like, I think he'd tolerate who she is a little bit more. I think he excuses it a tiny bit more than Max would. But to be fair, Felix hasn't been he's been around her, working with her, and caught up in all of this, but never in a relationship with her like Max has. So I'm sure, that changes and heightens everything, but still. So, interesting developments on that front. And so, by the time they get in town, they meet up with your boy, Max. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to go to the gas station. And, like, Murphy's like, why? And she's like, I have to get, like, I've been driving for 10 hours, so we need to get some gas. Get in. And she's like, kind of being a dick, but once again, it's like, he made it clear, I'm not here for you, Murphy. I don't like you right now, Murphy. So, and then, like, there's that awkward moment where Darnell and Murphy leave the car, and you're like, the awkward thing is, the 3 people in this room right now have had sex with Murphy. The really interesting thing is, we went from that scene to the next scene, and because Trey wasn't in the car anymore, but they meet up with Josh, and it's Josh, Max, and Felix. So we went from 3 people in the same car who've had sex with Murphy to 3 people. Her and Josh hooked up, didn't they? I believe they did. I'm blanking on that, but I believe he did. They did. So, like, yeah, they went to another room full of 3 people who had. It was just something that immediately crossed my mind with Josh in the scene. But yeah. But what I thought was really sweet was, like, after spending time with Murphy, Trey actually changed his mind. And the way he explains it to Max is like, nah, she actually gets me. Like, I know you guys have your circumstances, but then Max is like, nah, you shouldn't do that, bro. Like, the fact of the matter is, like, I know you're just, like, a friend of my friend, but, dude, I'm gonna let you know, like, don't get mixed up with Murphy. I mean, look at my life right now. She'll use you. I'm like, damn it, Max. You and your pessimism started all this. Like, things would have worked out if you had kept your mouth shut. It's like, for one, but it's like, nah, I'm trying to look out for the homie of a homie. It's like, shut up, Max. It's like, you ruined everything, you dick. Like, your pessimism and everything. If you kept your mouth shut, Trey wouldn't have been like, all right, I'm going to put things back on. Because because for a moment he started getting sentimental, but it's like, right, I'm just a means to an end. So it's like, right, all the bonding we've had recently, it's like, nah, she's been using me. Like, just like, it's like she's just trying to get what she wants. So it's like, nah, I don't matter. So I don't know why I'm tripping about, like, this girl. So it's like, he's calling up his boy to steal there's a whole like, Alex and Jess thing. I didn't know whether Jess was planning something. Like, I didn't know whether she was like secretly keeping stuff and ready for a breakout. But it's like, no, she was trying to like manipulate Alex, and because I felt like, I guess she like, right, Alex talked to her, got a little sentimental, even being like, yo, I'm only doing this because I'm trying to like take care of my sister. I think now, whether it's just being like, oh, she's a good person, like she'll help me, or whether she's like, all right, this is a good person, I can manipulate her. Those lines seem like they could be blurred to me, especially considering your life is on the line, so you're going to do whatever you can. But because even to the point, like, Jess is like, oh, thank you, and she throws the pills down because it's like, right, it's like she came up with that BS just to see if Alex would actually do it. Like, I think she was just trying to get her to lower her guard enough to like, no, trust me, please, like, see me as a person, please. It's like, because even you said like what Josiah is doing is really messed up, trying to kill me, so it felt more like manipulation rather than sincerity. It was a kind of a means to an end thing. But the moment Alex brings that up to Josiah, he's like, oh, you're basically going to be working on those streets again. It's like, I'm not going to make enough money. It's like, I don't care. Like, the fact is, you might want to reconsider your position and stuff like that where you really enjoy it. So I was like, ah. But then she has to go back for her sister's permission slip for a thing, and she runs into Trey's boy stealing the drugs. I'm like, no. I was thinking that maybe they kind of be able to convince Alex to be involved in it, but then it's like, no, because Alex is smart, knowing like, right, if Josiah finds out about it afterwards, we're all dead, and like, no. Also, because there's also the potential for your sister to get dragged into it too, so there's that. But the moment that started unfolding like that, I was like, please don't, Alex. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't. And what is she doing? She's calling Josiah. I'm like, no. I was like, please, just don't pick up. Just don't pick up. And it's like, he does. I'm like, this is where everything goes wrong. Once again, legitimately, if Max had kept his damn mouth shut, it would have been okay. Alex would have come back, got the note, and then bounced. And then eventually the cops would have showed up. Everything would have been fine. Max opening his damn mouth is where everything went wrong, So I'm curious what's going to happen the moment not only Darnell but Murphy and everyone finds out that this is all Trey's fault to a certain extent. And then eventually it's going to be like, I wonder will it ever come back to be like, yeah, Max is the one that told me that you were going to ruin everything. And it's like, wait, Max? And then he'll be like, but this is your fault, Murphy. You shouldn't have hooked up, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, truth be told, it's crazy and weird to say if Murphy hadn't hooked up with Trey, then, the world is interesting. Not her plan or anything like that. It just they naturally vibed like that. But if it wasn't for, because you can definitely see a lot of similarities in their personality and everything, like how they go through life and everything. But if Murphy hadn't hooked up with Trey, like, he wouldn't have changed his mind, regardless of everything. So he was trying to look out for him and his boys, but mainly himself, because I would have been top dog. So Alex is hiding nearby while Josiah's right-hand dude is going in there getting all the drugs. I was like, but what he's going to do about Jess? Because he's the dude that's told, like, at the moment the 9 p.m. thing comes, they kill Jess. Now Josiah also knows the cops were called and they're about to raid his place. He's going to know it was Murphy and them. So, yeah, kill Jess, which we go back to that thing. Was it the beginning of episode? No, it was the end of episode 1, I believe, like they did last season, that little flash forward, and it seemed like it might have been Jess. I don't know if that was home dude killing Jess, or maybe he didn't necessarily kill, because he only whacks her against that person gets whacked against a car like one. I think it's going to be a falsehood of like, it's going to make you think it's Jess or something, but in actuality, it's going to be someone else, different circumstance, whatever the case may be. I just don't think things are going to be as clear cut as we think they are. Like, granted, he could be knocking her out, but I don't remember him doing it multiple times. Maybe he did. It might have been multiple blows. It might not have just been one. We'll have to wait and see. I don't think it is Jess. I think it's a red herring, especially with the current circumstances. Because what I'm thinking is, and maybe I'm wrong in this, I think before home dude burned the place down, I don't think he got Jess. I think he was going to leave Jess in there to burn. I think Alex took Jess out of there because she knows that Jess was in there. She was checking in on Jess before she caught home dude stealing the drugs. So, because like Alex is like, right, she needs this job, she needs this position, because by keeping it, she's able to still take care of her sister. So it's like she's putting herself in a better position, which is like ironic, because you would have been in a good position with Trey. It's like, oh, they would have looked after you, but it's like, no, Josiah's a sure thing, and like Josiah surely would have found out about this and killed us all. So I'm good. I'm not about to piss that psycho off. So either Alex or like Home Dude grabbed her because she's still on an insurance policy for now, but it's still a thing of like, right, Josiah's eventually going to figure out like, oh, Murphy and them are behind this. And so, yeah, but like I said, there's still a possibility that Alex grabbed her after he set the place on fire because he's like, right, I'm just going to leave you here to die. We'll see. So just, once again, everything that could go wrong just goes wrong. So we had the end of the episode where Murphy arrives, obviously all those cops. So that's going to blow up in their face because they don't get to save Jess because now it's like she's dead and they're kind of getting arrested for nothing. So they're going to take the fall for it, but they're probably not going to confess to anything because it's like, no, you weren't able to hold up your end of the bargain. Like somehow this information leaked is going to be on your part. Then maybe Gene and Josh will be like, nah, this is on you. But then Gene might use this as an opportunity to be like, yo, I'm actually going to cut you a deal. Maybe it's like, I'll leave everyone alone. I'll only take you down if and only if you give me what I need to take down the chief. And then we'll probably have some like back and forth between Gene and Josh about that. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm so interested to see ultimately how everything plays out going into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.